Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of my show, William Wallace for America. Always bringing you some really interesting guests to give you not only unique opinions on where we're losing freedom and liberty in America, but people who are involved in their own way, in their states, and their communities. And it's all for the better of our country. With me is one of those people just doing that today is Sean Bearded Vet. George, how are you doing, Sean? How's it going today?
Good, William. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I tell you what, I've known you to be working in your community, and we're going to talk about that in your state here in just a second. But I also know you to travel the United States. I know some people go, well, he's spreading the good message of coffee, which unites everybody. But it's more than that. That's more of a way to fund your passion. Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure. The coffee, I love the business of it. We started back when there wasn't a tremendous amount of competition, so I think that gave us an advantage, and it raised up our social media profiles pretty easy. Sold half the company to a bigger business a couple years ago to help with production, fulfillment, and all those things. So it allowed me to be able to do these things that I'm doing uh, for our country and my state and my county and all those things.
Now you're a vet. Where did you serve?
Yeah, so I'm a United States Marine Corps. I served in the late '90s and early 2000s. Um, it was a tremendous experience. I was active duty. I still talk with my brethren, all my buddies. You know, the one of the great things about social media. There's a lot of problems with social media, but one of the great things about it is that it reconnected me with a lot of the guys that I served with, and now we have group chats and group texts and all sorts of things, and we have get-togethers. Even we got together all last year in September and watched one of our buddies, one of my best friends, his son graduate from medic school to become a medic in the Army down in San Antonio. So again, it was Marine Corps has been great to me. The camaraderie is always something that stays with you forever, and the oath you take, and that's why I'm fighting I'm fighting the good fight for the country, just like you're doing.
Well, what's interesting to me, and you bring up a good point, is the camaraderie that the military can provide for people is is the camaraderie that the leftists really hate in this country, which I think is one reason that there's a certain party in this country. I won't say who it is, that really does not respect the military, and I think some of that is intentional because that camaraderie and that brotherhood and even sisterhood, if you will, if we want to define it,
Absolutely.
in the military is what builds a stronger country. And when you destroy a brotherhood in our military, you do more than just destroy the military. You destroy a glue that holds our country together and protects it, which it ultimately is protecting freedom and liberty. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, what you see from the left as they're making um, horrible decisions militarily, and believe me, I'm no 3-star, 4-star general that's calling the shots, but boy, it sure looks like the people that are calling the shots at the top, they're making the wrong call every time. These last 4 years has been a complete disaster for the military. The recruitment's down because of it. No parent really truly wants to send their kid to the military currently right now, and that's why this all, they see what happened to the people in when we left Afghanistan, and they saw that complete debacle. They saw people hanging on to planes flying off of it,
That's right.
on the outside of planes. So and then the same enemy that we were fighting, that we gave and left the most precious airbase that we had overseas, we handed that over to the enemy, and they're out gallivanting and putting it in our face and driving the equipment that we were told was bad equipment. It wasn't good. And
Right.
yeah, and then they have a parade with it.
The
Uh,
equipment that the Chinese probably fixed up for them, fixed back up for them after they copied our secrets off of it and use it in the parade. Is that correct?
I think they just put fuel in it.
I think you're exactly right. I'm not laughing about, that situation, but I'm laughing about the absurdity of it because,
Right.
they don't address it.
Right.
They don't go back and say, "Hey, look, I know y'all are seeing that the other guys got our property," but they just let it go. They don't even make any excuses for it at all whatsoever.
Right. And
How many years
pretending
did you
like we're
serve?
in, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, how many years did you serve?
5 years, and so I did an extension to go on another deployment. So I wasn't in like tremendously long period of time,
No,
but
look, if you serve one day,
I did.
you did what less than 1% of people in our country do. You signed, a check for your life basically to the United States government.
Yeah,
And
no, it was great, and I did 2 deployments. So I went overseas. I saw mainly my second deployment was uh, a little more chaotic than my first deployment. First deployment was kind of like a med flow. But the second one, we spent a lot of time in Northern Africa. Our embassies were simultaneously bombed in Kenya and Tanzania on August 7th. Gosh, dogs, it's been that long ago. 26 years ago. I think it was August 7th, 1998, when that happened. Our embassies were bombed in Kenya and Tanzania simultaneously. And that is kind of when the American people were starting to hear the name Bin Laden a little bit. I think the New York attack happened somewhat sooner, or right before that had happened. So his name had been out there, but not too in the general public. And a lot of people lost their lives in Nairobi. Tanzania wasn't as bad, although the devastation was just as bad. And we helped organize getting all the civilians out of American civilians to the Nairobi airport and getting them on commercial flights, getting them out of there. But yeah, that's that was kind of my tours overseas for the most part. First time I went overseas, I spent some time in Norway, which was really beautiful. By the way, if you ever had a chance to go, I highly recommend it. And actually, there is a town in Norway called Hell, and it is froze over. So just for anyone listening, it is true.
So you got you got a passion for your country. You joined the military. You served. You traveled the world a little bit. You came back to America as a civilian, and that passion that you propelled you to join the military was, I don't want to say fermented, but it fermented in a positive way, like a good wine, we'll say, into the passion that you've used to be an involved citizen in your community, your state, and our country. Sean, will you tell us, please, how you got involved in your state in politics, and how on a national level you became involved, and what you're doing and what your titles are?
Yeah, sure. So basically, when President Trump came down the escalator back in 2015, I immediately jumped on board, and I was very impressed with his demeanor, and I thought it was kind of a long shot that he would beat all 17 or 16 of his opponents that year. However, I believed in his message, and as a business owner, I felt like I could trust him, um, because he is so successful in business. I'm an avid golfer. I love all of his golf courses as well. So that drove me to more of the politics on a national level. On a local level, though, it was
Drove, no pun intended, right?
right. Uh, and on a local level, because of me speaking out when I started Beard Vet, when I started the coffee company and growing the social media page, some local folks who own or they started a nonprofit called Nebraska Freedom Coalition, and I call them the Rowdies. Their politically, they're grassroots, and they're very conservative, constitutional conservatives, and very maybe a pinch liberal in some aspects. However, we just made a very good connection. There's a group of them that run it, and I just felt like they made me feel at home with them, and they brought me into the local Nebraska politics part of it. Also, on a national level, they were very active there, but they brought me in locally. So I ended up doing the things that I felt compelled to do, like become a precinctman in my county, which then in turn led to me being voted in as a delegate for the state of Nebraska for the Nebraska GOP.
Wow.
And now I have a great relationship with our GOP chairman, who is wonderful. His name is Eric Underwood. He's been on TV shows in and about, especially with Nebraska kind of becoming a battleground state. I know there's not many electoral votes here in this state. However, we have a split electoral vote. So if one district goes blue, they would get an electoral vote. We have 5 electoral votes, and currently, right now, there's 2 districts that are that are pretty tight races. Don Bacon, congressman in District 2, is having a pretty close race, heated race with a very, very
Can you
radical.
explain what the split vote, what the split electoral vote is? What that means?
Yeah, so basically, Nebraska has 5 electoral votes. Now, every district, which there's 3 districts of congressional districts, and then we have the two votes for our senators, right? So if one of our let's just say congressional district 1, if that goes blue, that would be 1 electoral vote for the Democrats. If all go to, if every Republican wins their race, then it would be 5 electoral votes for President Trump. The thing is here there's 2 very heated races right now. Deb Fischer, who is a senator for Nebraska, she's in a very tight race with a Democrat. And if she loses, and if Don Bacon loses, who he literally calls himself the most bilateral Republican out there. So, I mean, he's essentially a Democrat. But the other guy is way worse. The other guy is a crazy leftist Democrat. So as much as we have to, what do they call it? Bear and grin, we still want Bacon to win because it's an electoral vote for President Trump. And that's how important Nebraska is. With this being a very tight race, a lot of people are saying, because if Bacon loses the district, that's a +2 for Democrats, right? Even though it's 1 electoral vote, that makes us go 1 down, the Democrats go 1 up. So that's a difference of 2. And if we lose 2 of them, that's a difference of 4 electoral votes, which could mean the world to President Trump.
This sounds to me like, our electoral college, the way it was set up was, for the state to cast their electoral votes by popular vote in the state. Okay.
Yes.
Where if your state, wins for Trump, all the electoral votes are supposed to go towards the person who won the state.
Correct.
But what I did a while back, I did an interview with an organization that was trying to stop the national effort to change the playbook in each state, which would change the electoral college without them having to go to a convention of states of sort, because the Democrats want to find a way to change the electoral college to a popular vote instead of an electoral college vote. Now, of course, there's arguments on both sides. That some think that if it was a popular vote nationwide, Republicans would win, and then of course vice versa. However, the Democrats have learned how to change rules and laws in individual in individual states to make states change, like they've done in Oregon, Washington. Sounds like what they're doing in where you are in Nebraska, where they gerrymander those districts
Yes.
to where every district includes like a big Democratic population center, and then they're able to get a larger number of Democrats, in there. Like Oregon and Washington are primarily by land mass are Republican states, but the population centers make them Democrat, so they're able to change state laws. And that sounds like what they've done in Nebraska by messing with this electoral college thing, where now it's a split state. I use the air quotes on the video,
Yeah.
and that helps them have another stepping stone towards leaning it in their direction. Is that correct?
For the most part, yes. However, our governor, Governor Jim Pillen here in Nebraska, it has been, he's well aware that Republicans want to go back to the old way of winner take all. So the majority goes to red. We get all 5 electoral votes, right? He has been pressed on this, and so it's in his ball court to bring. He has to call a special session for our state legislator. We have a unicameral here, so we have one body of government. The problem with that is sure we have enough Republicans in the unicameral. We have enough legislators to make it pass without having a filibuster. Problem is there's a couple people, 4 to be exact, that are just so out in left field, not paying attention, that we can't get them on board. So there has to be a pressure applied to those. I call it pressure. Influence has to be applied to these 4 ding dongs. Now, and also though, it rests upon Governor Pillen. Now, he just called a special session for property tax relief, and it was terrible. It went terrible. We couldn't get all the. I'll just say this: Republicans have a very bad problem about getting together. Right? You have a
Right.
grassroots side, and then you have the old establishment part. I mean, we can't field a charity softball event for the most part.
Right.
I mean, we can't even get together on that. So they pull this. Governor Pillen pulls for a special session for property tax. It fails, so basically we get nothing. So the people are the residents of Nebraska lose in this deal. Now, Governor Pillen, on the other hand, he looks terrible for doing this. I think he's only going to be a one-term governor anyways. I hope he realizes, okay, I've got to get a win here. He calls for a special session for winner take all. And these legislators are with an election year here, they better get something done there before November 5th. Otherwise, people are going to start recognizing that they're not doing their job down there and not doing stuff for the people they represent. 600,000 Republicans, registered Republicans in Nebraska, and they're only hearing it from about 500 to 600 of us that are in the party, right?
What's interesting? Republicans, when they get when they get the majority, they always seem to find a way to steal victory from the jaws of defeat, or is it steal defeat from the jaws of victory? What's that way? They find a way just to not get it done. Individuals run on the thing that the people want the most, and freedom and liberty and fiscal responsibility and conservative values, and then which most of the country, I believe, can unite on. But then when they get the power, they play nice guys. Not that they got to be the bad guy like the Democrats and shove it down the throats of the people who disagree, but they need to at least, use the will of the people, the majority that they have, and get it across the finish line.
I compare it a lot to if I had my choice of putting a Republican at the free throw line to win the game for us, they would probably somehow find a way to step over the line and get a made free throw taken away. They just find ways to lose. So again, we have a lot of problems here just in this state. However, they're curable problems. We have a great grassroots Nebraska GOP. Our RNC chairwoman and chairman are both really good people. They're both grassroots. They're both Trump supporters. Pretty much the entire party here is Trump supporters, with the exception of our federal delegation and a few, maybe half of our legislators. So we have an establishment problem. However, we've called for unity here. We've bitten our lip and reached across to the establishment and said, "Hey, listen, hey, we got to get together here on this." And November 5th is too important to fight, squabble over anything until.
So you got about half your elected officials are establishment-minded, never Trumpers.
Yes.
Unbelievable. And at a time when, the Democrats, I believe the Democrat Party, I don't think they're united behind Kamala or Waltz behind the scenes, but in public, they're all about each other because they know that what it takes to get victory is to be able to bite your tongue and unite on your beliefs, or their beliefs rather, instead of an individual. And that's what the Republicans have a hard time doing. They unite on beliefs, but they have a hard time uniting on people when it comes to their own personal power. So let's one minute. Let's recap. What are your titles in Nebraska? What are all the things that that are your titles and things that you're involved in? We started to do that a few minutes ago, but I know we didn't finish it. I know you got a long list of them.
I do a few things and I do what I can. It's just it's a matter of time, but it's not too much time, right? So I'm a precinctman for our county. I'm a delegate. I was elected as a delegate for the state of Nebraska. So I got to go to the RNC convention and cast my vote for President Trump. I'm also the president of Nebraska Veterans for Trump. I'm a part of Trump Force 47. I became a Trump captain. I took the training of that 2 weeks ago. And so I'm all ready to do that. So I'm passing out yard signs, knocking on doors. I have a team of people and the good thing about this, so if people do want to sign up for it, trumpforce47.com, they put you in your neighborhood. So you don't have to go drive and clear across your town. They actually put you in your neighborhood and give you Republican voters, registered Republicans that are in your neighborhood, to get them to vote. And then you can stop by any door besides that, and leave some literature or a yard sign if they're voting for Trump, if they'd like one. So do that, stickers, all that stuff. I'm also a surrogate for Team Trump. So any information that the campaign would like to get out, I put that, put that stuff out on my social media pages for them. It's I've been a commander of the DAV. I've been a secretary for the Nebraska VFW before, back in the day. So it can be a lot sometimes. However, I look at it as I don't think, William, we're going to have too many more opportunities left if the left continues down the path that they're going right now and we don't stop it. So that's my biggest fear. I have a grandchild now, and that puts a little more pressure, I think, as an adult. Like, I would never want to, I never want to leave this country in a worse shape. That, one thing as a parent, you always want things to be better for your young, right? And better than you had it. And I feel we may be the first generation that leaves it worse. I don't want to be that generation that leaves it in a worse position for our children. So that's got me and the wife a little more active in our political ambitions. I don't have many ambitions other than just getting the right people elected. I don't want to become a politician. I don't have time for that. And honestly, it's not my thing. I think I'm not I'm not a statesman like a lot of these guys are, and no policy
Oh,
differences
you're more of a
between.
statesman than you realize,
I
Sean. I
appreciate I appreciate that, but I really like supporting and seeing the party grow to a more constitutionalist. You know, the people who want to save this country, I want to support them as much as possible. So
I
that's
love this. Well, see, that's just what makes you the unique individual you are, and why I wanted to bring you on and talk about freedom and liberty and things in America, because you're not your passion doesn't cross a line that makes you seem like you're one of those people that are just trying to get attention.
yeah,
There's some people that are out there like yourself that have a name across the United States that are well known in the circles. They're involved, and their passion brings them to a place where notoriety is more important than their original effort to fix our country, make things better for our community, and make things and leave things better for our children. And that's why I like your humbleness, and I'm grateful for your time, because I think you set a good example, for other people in our country that want to be involved, but want to be like, hey, I want to be involved, but I don't want to be that involved that I'm out there, getting noticed, kind of thing. And that's one thing I respect about you. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Your involvement brought you to be a delegate. So
yeah.
you go to the RNC. What did you experience at the RNC?
Well, I tell you, it didn't take long getting there to realize that one, my Nebraska delegation is very cohesive. Everybody, even though there are some that are definitely not as far right as me, or maybe even further right than me, we all got along and we heeded the calls um, for unity that President Trump put out there. So his team was the RNC, they put out a message beforehand that they wanted to see everybody getting along. Hence, they brought Nikki Haley out, and nobody really booed her, and that meant more, I guess, like, okay, if that's what President Trump wants, then that's what he's going to get from us. And our the Nebraska delegation, from the Nebraska GOP chairman all the way down to from the governor to a few of our federal delegation that showed up, everybody took those words and took it to heart and came back to Nebraska after the RNC convention and are putting that to task. And I thought that was the most impressionable thing there. Now, however, the big bearded guy like me gets noticed by the cameras sometimes. And of course, I wore, the last day of convention, I wore my American flag bandana, and I had that on, and I got hit by the cameras quite a few times. Um, so, and I was right. Nebraska, they put us right left of stage, right in the front. So
Right.
yeah, so it was a great time, a wonderful experience. The city of Milwaukee was amazing. I ate at a lot of cool, excellent restaurants. Um, Went out a couple nights with our folks. Um, yeah, it was just an overall great experience. Plus, no rioting. There was no riots. There was no Republicans beating up police that you're seeing at the DNC this week, right? I
Right.
mean, and nobody was throwing things in our food. All of our food didn't have bugs in it, which I heard was reported yesterday. Also, the RNC, they were not focused on name calling of the Democrats, whereas the DNC, if you've been paying attention this week, yesterday alone they mentioned President Trump 297 times, William. 297 times. Now, I beg to your viewers, I would like to tell them this, and I just kind of came up with this earlier today. Uh, instead of them saying Trump, take Trump out of every time, all those 297 times they said that, and put William Wallace's name in there. Put your name in there, because that's who they're talking to.
That's a
They're
great
talking
point.
to you.
Great point.
They're calling you all these names. They're calling you racist. They're calling you bigoted. They're calling you a sexist, you know, and a maggot and everything else, right? I mean, they're calling you and me those names, not President Trump. It's just, again, I believe President Trump is just in the way. They intend for you, that when they say Trump, they mean you.
That's right.
And you know, for all the nonsense, you know, they call us that we're crazy, but yet, tell me how we're crazy when we don't want tampons in boys' bathrooms.
Exactly.
You know, does that make us crazy?
Exactly. Why would they need them there?
Right. But does it make sense that there's still does that make us crazy that we want to release January 6 prisoners that have been in jail now over 3 years? Or
And,
is it crazy to bail out rioters that burnt down a city, the city of Minneapolis or Kenosha or wherever, you know, where
and not to
they
mention
they
all the
build them up.
other criminals in America, white, black, whatever nationality they are, you know, the other side is soft on crime. You know, it's because they let these guys out. They get away with cash bail. They get away with all the things that are tough on crime. Yet when it helps them promote an ideology or narrative, i.e., January 6th, then they're for locking people up and not giving them the rights. And they're doing to J6ers, whether we agree. Look, I got friends on the right, Republicans, who
Sure.
think that the J6ers were doing insurrection. Even if that's the case, even if they are right, the J6ers deserve due process that our Constitution and the laws of America afford, and they're not getting that. Even if we just look at it at face value like that and follow the other narrative, they're not getting their rights. Like you said, the rioters and everything else, they're being let out and being set free.
Right. Paid for. Paid for.
Paid for.
Democrats paid for them to get out of
Exactly.
prison. And you know, again, our this occupier in the White House tells us the border's closed. Yet they lost 320,000 children.
Right.
Lost them. Lost
Right.
320,000 children. Where are these children?
Exactly
You know,
right.
they've been human trafficked, and they continue to spread lies that have been debunked forever. The Charlottesville thing with President Trump, they continue to do that. They did it just the other night. Michelle Obama and Barack Obama both repeated those lies.
You mean Michelle Obama that was talking about income inequality, and they have 4 houses over $1 million each in various
Yeah.
parts of the country?
Yeah, net worth of 70 plus or $230 million, I think is what I saw. Somebody was saying 70 million, but their net worth is way more than that. And the Clintons too. The Clintons is way up there.
Yet they're going
And
to lecture us on income inequality. If they're so worried about income inequality, they could give out that money. I mean, look, the Clintons being worth almost $300 million, they could give everybody in America $500,000 and they'd still be worth $150 million, right? I mean, come on.
Sure. Yeah, no, again, their hypocrisy is their only thing that they have. That's the only thing that they have. And unfortunately, people buy into it. You know, I met a police officer yesterday morning, and I was just sitting there talking with him, and he told me he was prior service. I said, thank you for your service and appreciate all you guys do. And I said, so what? So obviously, you know, I'm a political guy. What do you think about this election? And he goes, man, I try to stay out of politics. And I go, I sure hope that if you take one thing away that you're going to hear from me today, is that you want to get into politics, that you should. I said, the least you got to do is vote, because the other side, they want your job. They want your job gone. They want to defund you.
Right.
And they don't want to pay for you to be here. and you left. This guy told me he left the service to come be a police officer, admiral. He was a very admiral kid, right? He told me his story, and we had time to sit and have a cup of coffee together. And he said, yeah, I left the service because I got offered this job here in Omaha. I loved Omaha and I didn't want to leave. And I told him, I was like, listen, man, the other side, the Democrats, they want to defund your job, and there's not gonna. They're very open about it. And he's like, well, he goes, if I do like anybody, he goes, I like Trump, Vance. And I was like, well, that's good, and I hope you go and vote early if you need to.
So, we've talked about conservative values. We've talked about freedom. We've talked about liberty. We kind of alluded what we're hearing at the Democrat National Committee this week. And I mean, everybody's kind of watching it a little bit. We got to hold our nose and, kind of take an anti-nausea, medicine before we watch their speeches. But that being said, when you were at the RNC, as I was too, I was with you on, as a delegate, what did you see the same thing I saw? So I won't lead in any more than that, other than to ask you, when you listen to speeches, did you hear speeches that were more uniting, reaching across the aisle? Did you hear any of that? Or did you hear rhetoric that was divisive? Did you hear things that were more inflammatory, more stone throwing? What did you get from the speeches at the RNC compared to what you're hearing at the Democrat national speeches today?
Right. Yeah, I think when everything that I remember, every night was a little bit different, right? They had their themes every night when we were there, from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There was a different theme, and I tell you, so that Wednesday night is the one that probably hit me the hardest when Kai Trump, Donald Trump Jr.'s daughter, was there, and the whole Corey Corpatone, the firefighters family, and the Gold Star families. I just found the RNC was very patriotic. I thought the messaging was good because they talked about policy. They did talk about essentially President Trump's Agenda 47. And if you want to take a look at that, just Google Agenda 47, President Trump's, and you can go right down the line. And these are nonsensical things. These are very sensical things that everyone should agree upon. And I think there's bipartisan support because all of these bills are pretty much already on the books. It's the other side that wants to change these fundamental values and are changing them. We just want them back the way when they were having civil discourse. I don't know if there's much more things about reaching across the aisle anymore, as much as I think there's a few of those guys left. I think there's a few moderate Democrats. There's quite a few moderate Republicans, if that's what you would like to call them. I think there's way more on our side than there is on their side. I can only think of Joe Manchin, and maybe we get lucky with John Fetterman every once in a while coming across the aisle.
Right.
But other than that, you have seen though people that have gotten out that have came across the party, came over. Tulsi Gabbard being one, potentially RFK Jr. Dropping out of the race and coming over to endorsing President Trump. Hopefully tomorrow is the rumor. So those are good signs. And when people like that, especially someone like a Tulsi Gabbard, who was very popular in her party.
Right, exactly.
As a Democrat, she was very popular. For her to come over and become a Republican or even an independent, that's a big step. Those are very critical things for the people who are not far right like me I consider myself far right. However, I also see a big picture of winning. I like wins.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
I wouldn't be in business if I didn't like winning or money and things like that, right? And being passionate about what you do, and being passionate about what you do gets you wins
Right.
in the long race. So, uh, yeah, there is a lot different between the two parties, and especially at their conventions. I see I see the Democrats filled with hate. I feel, they hung Joe Biden out to dry. They put him at the midnight slot on the first night, where the American public they've already gone to sleep waiting
Right.
for him to come out, and he's out there and he's rah, 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 sound like a dictator, and and completely like the guy's lost his mind.
Now the people, there's some people on the right, and even plenty of people on the left, of course, who can say the same thing when they listen to the RNC speeches. But what I think happens is that they listen to the speeches in a liberal filter. They're only
Sure.
hearing every 10 words, right? Which makes it a more, and the words they're hearing create sentences that prove their point, so to speak. But when I listen to the Democrat, convention, and I put away all the filters. I mean, I'm trying. Look, when I watch left wing media just to see what they're saying, I don't, because
Sure.
when you really listen to every word, and you don't try to translate it through a narrative that from the side that you stand on, you see things like you're saying right now. You see that the tone of the Democrat speeches are a little bit more inflammatory. They're a little bit more, angry. They're a little bit more controversial, or blaming, other than the Republican speeches where at the RNC, where I experienced like you did. They were they were a lot more positive and a lot more about what they were going to do with policies than they
Right.
were.
Policy and positivity is what I felt there. There was never any danger of going outside of outside of the wall, so to say. There was never any danger of that. I mean, I literally went right downtown Wisconsin, right from the RNC, went to an establishment to an after party, like everybody has after
Right.
party. I went to one, and it was awesome. And the people there working, you could tell they were not Republican people, probably, if I'm judging off of looks alone, right? Uh, However, we had a great time and they had a great time, and we spent money in their establishment helping the local communities there. I looked at the positivity of that. Everyone I spoke to was, again, I thought it was very good. I think the exact opposite in Chicago is happening. I think Chicago business owners want these people out of there. They've experienced
Well, because
three
riot.
nights of riots. I mean, it's the crime's out of control there, anyways. I mean, 40
So the
people
Republican
died last
National
weekend.
Convention was more unity, and of course the perimeter and the area around it was more, was more about, unity and happiness, and finding things we unite on, even though they might disagree with who was there. Whereas the Democrat Party is more, they're saying they're about unity, but there's more riots. So let's leave the convention a
Okay.
little bit, and let's talk about, when we talk about uniting, and we talk about, how we can, have an election this year that unites more people on policies and things that are good for America, like I believe, making America a great country. And notice that they twist it. They say MAG is a bad thing, but what can be better than making our country that we live in great for everybody to prosper?
Right.
Speaking of that, what do you think Donald Trump can do to unite more people and increase the size of his voting base to help get him to not only unite people on good policies, but a win for America?
Well, that's a great question, and that's a pretty hard question. Um, I can tell you this: with him, spreading that message of unity. So how does he do it? Well, I'll tell you what happened with me when I left the RNC convention. I hopped on the phone call and I talked with my buddies back here. I ended up calling several of them, and one of the guys was riding with me. And I was like, listen, let's try to see if we can put a group together to reach across to the, I hate to call them rhino establishment, but uh, that's kind of what they are in my world. But I called up 7 guys, and we got together. We actually got together a week after the convention, met at a place, and we talked about a strategy on how to pull the party closer together, because the establishment here in Nebraska has the money. They have the money and the power. However, we, the people, the grassroots, there's way more of us, and we can be very effective. And so I reached out to the people who I didn't really want to reach out to, and I basically stressed, hey, listen, let's try to get together. Let's get some wins on the board for everyone, including you, Don Bacon, including you, Mike Flood, who's another Representative Flood, or Representative Adrian Smith, and Pete Ricketts, Senator Ricketts, and Senator Fisher. We are, and Governor Pillen. We formed this group to kind of help our GOP, one, fundraise, two, to spread unity throughout all of the party. It's very hard to win back your party and then to feel like we're compromising by reaching across to other Republicans who aren't necessarily Trump fans, right?
Goes back to what we were saying earlier.
Right.
It shouldn't be about the candidate. It should be about the policies. And if
Right.
we as Republicans led the charge on that, where in our own party we fought for our beliefs, and we fought for our individuals like we fight for our beliefs, or shall we say vice versa,
Right.
in some cases, then the perception that we're more unified on our beliefs, I think, would bring more people to us on during elections.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why President Trump's pick for the vice presidential candidacy was very important. I think he picked a charismatic guy. I think he's, obviously a veteran, and a Marine, um, somebody who's built his life up from being in, essentially, the trailer trash, um, to making a name for himself in politics, becoming the senator in Ohio. And I think JD Vance is an excellent pick, and I think that helps with the unity part too. Not only because I think JD is not as far right as Donald Trump. No, I think he's just a little more articulate, and he gets that unity has to happen in order for this to be a victory. And I think he has excellent policy making skills. I think he's a statesman. Um, Again, I think he's going to look out for the American people very well. And I was excited. I don't know if I said this, but I got to meet him yesterday.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, of all things, he came to Omaha for Pete Ricketts held a fundraiser. They raised $1 million in about 3 hours, 2 hours, and $1 million here in little old Omaha, Nebraska. So for the Trump Vance campaign. So, anyways, it was excellent. I got to shake his hand. I got to ask him a couple questions. He is, he is not going to let up on Tim Walz and Kamala Harris letting lies out there float. He is going to keep pounding those issues, because they're important to veterans. One, Tim Walz lying about his military service and rank and record. That's important to veterans, and using that to get political gain and monetary gain is 100% against what the Stolen Valor Act was essentially made for, which was an Obama act, by the way.
Ah, how
Uh,
interesting is that?
yeah. So he said he's going to keep the the foot down on the pedal. When I experienced Team Trump while they were here, they were very well oiled machine. They know exactly what they're doing. There was no chaos that I saw within the last 24 hours of them being here. They stayed overnight. I was with the motorcade this morning, taking him back to Trump Force 2, which is really cool, by the way. Super neat plan. And again, I'll just reiterate for your listeners, William. The reason, yes, I when you get involved locally, you get to do things like this. You get to do things like
To
this,
have
like
a
being
national impact.
right, and you get to do things like be in the motorcade, meeting the vice presidential candidate at a place. You get invited to do these things because of your volunteerism, right? Uh,
Right.
so again, when you volunteer your time, it does come with some reward in a certain aspect. You might get a free hat or something like that. I mean, I know that's not like extremely enticing. However, they recognize your efforts, and that's every once in a while, every good employee needs a pat on the back. You
Well,
know,
yeah, and I gotta say, when you get involved on a local level, even a small, tiny level, it helps in the efforts. That little help that you might be offering on a campaign on a local level could mean all the difference in the world for a candidate who might be key in making a policy that benefits the community in a bigger
right,
level.
right,
When you show your support, it's bigger than a vote. You might sway 10 votes, 5 votes, but either way, that help makes all the difference in the world. And I tell people all the time, if we don't get involved in politics, they will run over us. And it comes down to voting too. I tell everybody, I said, look, if you're not voting, somebody's voting for you. They're using
exactly,
registrations. That's what the ballot harvesters use the
yeah.
registrations of people who aren't voting. So you think Donald Trump can increase his base in one sentence? How?
Well, I think him getting more involved with the unity aspect, getting the party back together, I think that's going to draw a lot more of the what do you want to call it? The normies, the people that don't do this for a living, the people who are not watching political shows like yours or even Fox News. To get those people involved, they got to hear the the hammering for unity and policy that you're talking about. The things about closing the border, things that the economy, the groceries, the gas prices, all those things that Democrats are saying they're going to fix, but they've made the problem over the last 4 years.
They keep saying they're going to fix it, but they've been in office. I mean,
They
this is
had
what gets
control.
me. For
They've had control of everything, William. They've had
yeah,
the Senate, the House, and the presidency.
they keep telling us how great everything is, but they keep telling us they're going to fix it. Well, if it's so great, why are you running on fixing it? Why aren't they saying, "Hey, vote for us, and we're going to give you more of what you're getting because it's so great"? No, they keep saying, "Hey, everything's great. We've made it better, but vote for us, and we're going to fix it." And it's
Exactly.
really,
And
it makes
and and it's and the current vice president Kamala Harris. I mean, who knows? For all we know, she has been the president for the past 3 years with the shape that you see Joe Biden in. Right? I mean, they've been hiding him the entire time. There's no way Joe Biden can make effective policy at the condition he is in. We've all seen him. He couldn't, I don't think he knows, like, he obviously didn't know his golf handicap. That guy I mean, he can't shoot his age in 9 holes. So I'm just saying, like, we all know this to be a fact that one of the major questions I get asked all the time is who's running this country? Well, it's the next person that's behind him, and that would be Kamala Harris. So all these problems that you're seeing and witnessing and everything, you kind of have to blame her because the guy on the top, at the top, he's in no condition to do anything. He can't pick a breakfast menu out. he's not making decisions. There's just no way.
That's right.
So, and again, they if they say that he's the decision maker right now, why did they put him in on the midnight slot? You know, why would they do that to the president?
Right.
You know,
Put him on prime time and another night that's closer to the big finale. Put him on Thursday night. Put him on tonight before Kamala Harris, whatever the case may be, but they're not doing that. Sean, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed my conversation with you. And I've been lucky enough to have you on some interviews before, but I think this interview that we've done today, this podcast is one of the best episodes we've done yet. And I've enjoyed watching you for the last couple of years, not only grow your company, Beard Vet Coffee, but which I've been scrolling at the bottom, by the way, the whole time, but I've watched how much more you've been able to grow, in your community and our country, using your passion to do not only what's right, but find ways to improve, to be our country, to be able to leave our country in a better place than it was before for our children. But do you have any final words before we head out?
The only if there's anything that you want to do, and the reason why I do these things again, William, is because I was asked several times, like, is that all you do is tweet and post in social media? And I put my money where my mouth is. I got up and did something. I went out and did, again, the volunteering. I don't get paid to go to say things about Trump. I got off my patootie and went out and joined my local GOP, and I got more involved there and other community aspects with veterans awareness and things like that. And I hope everybody else, if I can spread a message, listen, it's actually a lot of fun. Getting into it is fun, and it's also it's meaningful. You can leave an impression, even just the smallest bit of even just going to a county meeting. You will make an impression there. So I highly recommend that to any of your listeners to get more active. If a big guy like me can get out there and do it, most definitely all of you can.
I love it, Sean. That is great advice. I'm gonna add to that for just a second, and then I'm gonna end our show, and then I'm gonna ask you to hang on till after I end the show. But my last comment on that, and thank you for giving me this thought or this reminder to share this thought is, I talk to people about voting, and they say, well, my vote doesn't matter. And I say, well, if you don't vote, the elected officials know you're not voting because it's on the voting record. If you're registered to vote and you're not voting, they know they can say, hey, we proposed a tax increase, and we did it on an election day when we knew nobody was going to show up. And sure enough, only 7% of the electorate showed up. So they're not paying attention for their own, when we want to tax them more money. And then on a governor election, you're lucky to get 50% in some cases.
Right.
So I always tell people the reason it's important to go vote, whether you think it counts or not, is because they, in quotes, are watching not only who's voting, they're watching a percentage of people to know what they can get away with. Now, to your point, Sean, is when you take that action of voting and you add to it community involvement, getting involved in races, getting involved in campaigns, getting involved in local organizations, the people that are watching the activity, they see bigger crowds of people showing up who are involved in their community. They see bigger groups of people. They see more people involved. They see more faces that they recognize. They know that they could get away with less. And for the people to go, oh, that's conspiracy thinking and think that they're trying to get away with stuff. Well, look at your taxes. Look at what's going on in your community. In my own community, there's a park, and they keep cutting down trees and adding parking lots and spaces. Well, I talk to people at the park, and they're like, this is absurd. They're getting rid of all the trees. I'm like, they're doing it because they know they can get away with it. It's little things like that that when you're involved, they get away with less. And I
Right.
want to thank everybody for listening today. And if you want to really spread the word to get other people involved, the words of Sean George are words of wisdom. Please go check out his coffee. If you want to support Sean George, support veterans also. You can support veterans by buying some of his coffee. Please share this show. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Sean George, for joining in. And we're going to head out, and please share the show. Thank you very much.